What will happen when the last trees die? The last living remnants of plant life on Earth? As wildfires and flash floods and other effects of climate change ravage the planet, it feels like a really current question. But this is the plot of Silent Running, a 1972 sci-fi film directed by Douglas Trumbull. Freeman Lowell, Bruce Dern, is one of 4 crewmen aboard the Valley Forge, a space freighter slowly pushing its way through our solar system. Attached are 6 geodesic domes with a very precious cargo, Earth's surviving plant life. Lowell is the ship's botanist, hoping to keep the domes to eventually reseed Earth with its native plants and animals. Well, it seems that the world has other ideas. The crew is ordered to destroy the domes, and after seeing 4 of them jettisoned, Lowell snaps, killing his 3 crewmates to save what little is left. It's an almost audience-alienating premise, and I think that many viewers will struggle with comparing the worth of 3 human lives to a bunch of trees, even if they carry a greater weight than they would usually. And yet, Lowell is a tremendously complex character, full of depth and subtly performed by Bruce Dern. Dern's had a long and varied career, typically playing kind of semi-unhinged characters or villains, and nowadays he's probably more well known for his daughter, Laura Dern, than for his own work. But there's a few great performances under his belt, and Lowell stands head and shoulders above the rest. Lowell's main relationships throughout the film are with 2 maintenance robots, affectionately dubbed Huey and Dewey. He seems more comfortable with them and with the trees than with his crewmates, so it's ultimately not surprising who he chooses to protect. For Lowell, desperate times call for desperate measures, and it doesn't get much more desperate than the death of Earth's forests. It's a masterful performance by Dern, turning a murderer into a sympathetic character who you want to root for.
I don't think that I'll ever be able to excuse what it is that I did, but I had to do it.
Dressing in loose robes and getting back to nature, Lowell embodies a particularly 1970s vision of someone who cares about nature, and the film's hippie ethos runs deep into its creative decisions, particularly embodied in the folk soundtrack by Joan Betts and Peter Schlickel. Seriously, listen to this track, which is about as 1970s folksy as something can possibly be.
Earth between my toes and a flower in my hair, that's what I was wearing when we lay among the ferns. Earth between my toes and a flower I will wear when he returns.
That hippie eco-focus also allows for a film about contrasts. Despite being up in the stars, Lowell has Earth between his toes. He's trying to get back to somewhere that no longer exists. And the heady ideas of the film are mixed with a very utilitarian design. Valley Forge, Lowell's ship, is a working vessel, unlike the flagship Enterprise with its diplomatic scientific mission, or the ragtag rebel Millennium Falcon, looking like it's held together with duct tape. Valley Forge is industrial, not a flashy sci-fi vehicle. The interior sequences were shot on a decommissioned aircraft carrier, adding to the sense of realism. It really feels like a working space instead of something dreamt up by concept artists, which of course it absolutely was. Huey and Dewey too are a far cry from the polished droids of most sci-fi movies. They're blocky little utilitarian constructs, waddling around the ship tending to their tasks. And speaking of Huey and Dewey, they're 2 outstanding effects in a film that looks, frankly, fantastic for its time. Douglas Trumbull, the director, is better known, I think, as a special effects consultant, a strangely bland way of describing one of the most complex and creative roles in Hollywood. Trumbull created the space sequences of Tree of Life, designed the apocalyptic LA skyline of Blade Runner, and most famously devised the effects of 2001: A Space Odyssey, including the iconic Stargate. With such a rich body of work and a mind clearly tuned to the twin creative and engineering problems brought about by practical effects filmmaking, it's no surprise that Silent Running looks as good as it does. Importantly, Trumbull's focus on practical effects as much as optical ones gives the film a lived-in feel. Huey and Dewey are really more like giant puppets operated by 4 bilateral amputee actor puppeteers, which humanises their movements and their interactions with Lowell.
Is there a special feeling that you have toward people once you're inside that outfit? Do you start taking on a feeling of a robot?
You do, kinda, yeah.
And the Valley Forge itself is a miracle of model making, a meticulously detailed and believable vehicle that took 6 months to build, and shines in the film's most stunning effect sequences. Despite his brilliance, Trumbull never seemed to quite fit in Hollywood. He directed just one other feature film, Brainscan, after this one. It might be due to his investment in ShowScan, a high frame rate film format that he's convinced, still, is the future of cinema. Of course, poor audience and critical response to other large-scale rollouts of similar high frame rate formats, like Peter Jackson's first Hobbit movie, probably suggest otherwise. Even if ShowScan turned out to be a dud, it was very ahead of its time, predating even the equipment to adequately project it. And despite all the kind of logistical issues of that, I think that shows how forward-thinking Trumbull was about cinema and filmmaking techniques. It's possible that in Lowell, a man standing alone, reaching toward a new sense of wonder, we see a reflection of Trumbull himself. Or maybe that's just a reach on my behalf. Either way, beneath its cheesy 70s elements, Silent Running is a gorgeous, surprisingly melancholic and grown-up bit of hard sci-fi that asks questions we still haven't answered.